Ladies and gentlemen, what we're witnessing right now in Chicago is nothing short of history. Over 50 people shot, 7 killed in one weekend, and while the blood still stains the streets, the so-called woke Mayor Brandon Johnson isn't protecting his citizens. No, he's panicking. He's drowning in his own failed policies, and he's storming out of press conferences while the city collapses. Now, here's the breaking development. President Donald J. Trump has had enough. He is officially taking over Chicago, surging in federal law enforcement and putting the radical left mayor on notice. This isn't just politics. This is a federal takeover of America's most dangerous city. And folks, it gets worse. You're going to see how Chicago's budget collapse ties directly to this bloodbath. You're also going to see how Brandon Johnson slashed police positions while growing a bloated bureaucracy. And you're also going to see why President Trump's move may be the boldest law and order strike since El Salvador crushed the cartels. Guys, wait a second, because in just a minute, I'm going to show you the numbers that the mainstream media refuses to air, the humiliating details about Brandon Johnson's executive order that actually made it illegal to enforce the law. And this is the reason why President Trump's surge could change the future of every blue state in America. Like, subscribe, share, because what you're about to hear, this is going to shake you. Now, folks, let's ground ourselves right now. This is brand new. Under the leadership of President Donald J. Trump, America is rebuilding. Jobs are roaring back. Tariffs, they're bringing billions of dollars back into this country. But in Chicago, it actually looks like an actual war zone. So this past Labor Day weekend alone, more than 50 people were shot. Can you even imagine that? Like, picture 50 people. 7 of them were unalived. Let that sink in, okay? This isn't happening in Caracas, okay? This isn't happening in Kabul. This is happening right in the United States of America, in one of the biggest cities. Now, here's the truth, okay? Chicago's murder rate doesn't just beat out New York or Los Angeles. No, it dwarfs them. The murder rate, it's 3 times higher than LA. It's 5 times higher than New York, 15 times higher than Delhi, India. I mean, like, folks, what does this tell you, right? This is not just urban decay. This is clearly a collapse. And while President Trump is working overtime to restore America's strength, Chicago is spiraling deeper and deeper into chaos. But of course, it gets worse. So I want to show you guys what this bloody weekend actually looked like. In Bronzeville, 7 people mowed down in a single mass shooting. I mean, hours later in Humboldt Park, 4 more victims in a drive-by. And the most heartbreaking was a 17-year-old boy, and he was left fighting for his life, with 4 firearms recovered from the scene. I mean, this isn't gang on gang. This is terrorism against ordinary American families who just want to enjoy their Labor Day. But here's the real kicker. As if that wasn't enough, across more than 20 separate incidents, police made 0 arrests. Can you believe that, guys? 0? A city where dozens of shooters can spray bullets across neighborhoods and then walk away untouched. A city where the clearance rate for mass shootings is literally 0. That's not policing, guys. That is surrender. And yet, while the bodies are piling up, the so-called woke mayor of Chicago is more worried about federal help than the lives of his citizens. His executive orders, his posturing, his press conferences, all of it shows a man drowning, a man who knows he's already lost control. That's really what it boils down to. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why President Trump stepped in, because somebody had to. Somebody had to protect the people of Chicago. Drop a 47 in there if you're glad that President Trump stepped in there, especially when their woke mayor refuses not to lead. But what exactly did Mayor Brandon Johnson do in the middle of this bloodbath that essentially proves that he's in way over his head? And now, we got to talk about his panicked response set up President Trump's decisive federal takeover, guys. 10 years ago, barely anyone even reviewed their Medicare plan. People just stuck with whatever they had. But today, the smart ones, they know better. Calling chapter has literally become the new normal because word has spread and people save money. They gain benefits and they keep their doctors when they make the call. So this is why I partner with Chapter, folks. They have made reviewing your coverage not just smart, but it's standard. So ask yourself this: do you really want to be stuck with the old way, or do you want to join the new normal? Now, most people are already calling the phone number on the bottom of your screen right now, and they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. There's a link down below. And these days, guys, not calling is actually the unusual choice. Phone number's down below, 909-563-8279. Now, folks, let's go ahead and ground ourselves right now, okay? Me and you, let's just ground ourselves, okay? Under President Trump's leadership, America is rebuilding. Jobs are back. They're roaring back. Tariffs are bringing billions of dollars back into this country. But unfortunately, in Chicago, it looks more like an actual war zone. This past Labor Day weekend alone, more than 50 people were taken down. 7 of them were unalive. survived. I want you to let that sink in, okay? This isn't happening in Caracas, something, some crazy war-stricken city across the world. It's not happening in Kabul. This is happening right here in the United States of America, one of the biggest cities. And so here's the truth, guys. Chicago's murder rate doesn't just beat out New York and Los Angeles. It completely dwarfs them, okay? I mean, what they're experiencing is just unreal. So what was Mayor Brandon Johnson's response when his city turned into a war zone this past weekend? Did he call for backup? Did he call for the National Guard to come in? Did he admit the obvious that Chicago was spinning out of control? No, not exactly. He didn't do any of that, in fact. So instead, he doubled down on his own failures. Johnson signed an executive order that actually banned Chicago police from working with federal agents or even the National Guard troops. Can you imagine this, guys? With a horrible weekend like he just experienced there, he didn't even want help? Think about that. This is when federal help was on the way. When reinforcements were being prepared to save lives, Johnson's priority wasn't protecting the people of Chicago. No, it was protecting 550,000 illegal migrants. You heard that right, guys. Johnson wrote into law that Chicago cops cannot cooperate with federal agents or on patrol, not for arrests, nor for immigration enforcement. So I want to just go ahead and put it plainly. He's making it illegal to enforce the law in certain circumstances. Who does that? Anybody? Who does that? Like, who looks at 50 people being shot in a single weekend and says, hey, let's go ahead and tie our officers' hands even more? Only a politician drowning in panic would even think of doing such a thing, desperate to protect his own ideology at the expense of his people. On top of that, there were no arrests. So the humiliation, guys, it shows. Reporters pressed him, residents demanded answers, and Johnson, he couldn't take the heat. Rambling answers, evasions, and then ultimately just walking out when the questions got a little bit too sharp for him. Folks, this is what collapse looks like. This is a mayor who clearly cannot handle the truth, storming out while the city that he governs burns behind him. What in the world is going on in Chicago, guys? Anybody? Where are you guys watching from? Do we have anyone watching the show from Chicago right now? So this is when President Trump ended up making his move. President Trump, he had warned Governor J.B. Pritzker and Mayor Johnson just a few days ago, straighten it out fast or we're coming in. Well, Trump wasn't bluffing. He authorized a surge of federal law enforcement into Chicago, strategically choosing ICE agents and federal officers, not just the National Guard. Why? Because this isn't just about crowd control. This is about targeting the worst of the worst. The gangs, the cartels, the illegal networks turning Chicago into a battlefield. And make no mistake, Trump modeled this after the deployments in Los Angeles, okay? But he's going bigger, he's going faster, and he's going harder than ever before. In fact, the National Guard stands ready to secure federal buildings if the chaos spreads. But the core mission is ICE, federal law enforcement, and restoring order where weak leadership has failed. So this is the takeover moment, guys. President Trump, he didn't wait for another excuse. He didn't wait for another body count. He saw leadership collapse, and then he filled the vacuum. For the very first time in over a decade, Chicago streets may finally see accountability because the President of the United States refused to let woke incompetence cost more lives. But here is the real question, guys. How deep does Chicago's failure go? The shootings are only the symptom. The root cause, this is a financial and bureaucratic scandal that's so massive, it makes the violence inevitable, really. And when you hear what Johnson has done to the budget, you're going to understand why President Trump had no choice but to step in. So now let's talk about this rot that's going on beneath the surface. The part of Chicago's collapse that almost nobody wants to admit, because the blood on the streets, guys, it's only half the story. The other half is financial and bureaucratic disaster that's just so massive, it guarantees that violence will keep getting worse. So here are the facts. Chicago, it's staring down a $1 billion deficit in 2025. And of course, it doesn't stop there. It gets worse. By 2026, it's going to jump to $1.2 billion. By 2027, it jumps to $1.3 billion. I don't know if you guys are seeing the pattern here, but this is a financial death spiral. And what did Mayor Johnson do? Did he cut waste? Did he prioritize public safety? No. He took a sledgehammer to his own police department. Johnson eliminated 456 police positions. Think about that. Think about that. Things are only about to get worse. This is at a time when Chicago's drowning in crime. He's shrinking the police force. Is that the best place he could have cut to save money for the city? But here's the kicker. While he was cutting cops, he was adding 184 new bureaucrats. So let's get this straight here, guys. Fewer officers on the street, but more paper pushers in the office. This is not balancing the budget, okay? This is ideological warfare against public safety, and it's being funded by the very taxpayers who are being terrorized in their own neighborhoods and complaining about it, and he's basically spitting in their faces. Then the betrayal, it cuts even deeper because Johnson raised property taxes by $300 million, breaking his campaign promise not to raise them. I don't know about you guys, but I'd be ready to move out of there. I'd be ready to relocate, pack my bags, and get the heck out of there. Now imagine that. You pay more and you get less. Can you imagine that? You go to a restaurant, you pay more money, and they're putting less food on your plate. I mean, what in the world's going on here? And to cover his tracks, the man raided a record 570 million TIF surplus. This money was meant for future economic growth and burned it just to plug today's holes. He ain't fixing the city. He is robbing its future to paper over its failures. So now, if we layer that disaster on top of collapsing city services, and you got the definition of a failed state. Chicago owes $300 million in unpaid firefighter wages from years of broken contracts. Chicago public schools, well, they're running a $734 million deficit right now, projected to explode to $1.3 billion by 2030. Now, folks, when your firefighters aren't paid and your schools are bankrupt, well, you don't have a functioning city. So here's the harsh truth, Mr. Brandon Johnson. When your police can't arrest criminals, your firefighters can't collect wages, and your teachers can't get resources to teach kids, what do you have left? You don't have a city. You have a very expensive disaster zone. So this is why President Trump's federal surge matters so much, because the deeper you look, the more obvious it becomes. There is no plan, there is no leadership, and no future under woke governance. I mean, this takeover isn't just about crime. It is about saving a city from itself. But here's the moment that you really need to see, because Mayor Johnson, cornered by his own failures, panicking, lashing out, storming out, and just storming out of the appearances when pressed about the blood in his hands. And that particular meltdown, folks, this is where the humiliation hit him the hardest. So after all of this, the shootings, the zero arrests, the budget disaster, how did Mayor Brandon Johnson react when the pressure hit? Did he show leadership? Did he take responsibility? Of course not. It's Mayor Brandon Johnson, guys. Instead, the man panicked. He signed a weak, symbolic executive order, a political stunt that was meant to score points with the radical left. He stood up there and he declared that Chicago police would not cooperate with the National Guard or with the federal agents. So in other words, when help finally arrived, Johnson made it clear he would rather tie the hands of his own officers than to accept Trump's assistance. And then came the meltdown. Reporters pressed him about the 50 people shot. Residents demanded to know why their neighborhoods were being abandoned. And Johnson lashed out. He rambled, dodged questions, and eventually, finally, in true cowardly fashion, he stormed out. Now, folks, that ain't leadership. That is a humiliation. That is a mayor drowning in his own failures, a man who knows that he's already lost control of his city. His image as the woke protector of Chicago collapsed right there, right in front of the cameras, in front of the citizens that he betrayed. And so here's where the story completely flips, because while Johnson stormed out, President Trump stepped in. Trump is doing what Democrats refuse to do, restoring law and order. He's unleashing the federal law enforcement, ICE agents, and yes, the National Guard, if necessary, to take back the streets. And history shows us exactly what happens when strong leadership takes on lawless chaos. I mean, just look at El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele. He crushed the gangs and the cartels, and the people rewarded him with like 85% of the vote. The same thing could happen right here. If Trump rescues Chicago from its woke collapse, if he restores safety to America's most violent city, he will in fact reshape the political map forever. Now, this is the moment. Chicago's chaos has exposed the rot of the progressive governance. And Trump's takeover may be the spark that reignites law and order across every collapsing blue city in America. So the real question here is this: will President Trump's federal surge finally bring relief to the citizens of Chicago, or will woke leaders just dig in even further, fight back, and drag their city even deeper into the abyss? You tell me, guys. Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. And hey, listen, if this breakdown opened your eyes even just a little bit, do one thing right now. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video so that the truth cuts through the media noise. And don't click away just yet, because YouTube thinks you're going to absolutely love the next video that just popped up on your screen right there. And I think they're right. So go ahead and watch it right now, and I'll see you over there.